Power wash or not to power wash? That is the question. Today I'm going to give you some practical tips on how to use a power washer on a motorcycle and why I think it's nothing to be afraid of. So when I did my cleaning video, I received quite a few comments about using a power washer on a motorcycle. For some reason, folks seem to think it's a bad idea, and whilst I understand it may seem that way, personally I disagree, but as long as it's done in a proper manner. There's a few things to watch out for when using one, but other than that I think it's perfectly safe to do so. Before I crack on with my tips, bear with me whilst I go through some of the reasons why they are good and why they can be a bit of a concern. I appreciate motorcycles don't have quite as much painted surface to take care of as their four-wheel cousins do, but cleaning with a minimal amount of touch is the most sensible approach for any vehicle. Using wash mitts to wipe down dirty surfaces will not only contaminate your cleaning equipment, but will also result in dragging that dirt around the plastics, metals and painted surfaces, which can lead to scratching and marring of the finish. Just to be clear, in this video I'm talking about bikes that have some proper dirt or bugs on them. I wouldn't advocate using a power washer on a bike that is just a bit dusty through the summer months. A normal garden hose is going to be perfectly adequate for removing this dust from the surfaces of the bike. For properly soiled bikes, using a standard garden hose, or heaven forbid no hose at all, does not remove anywhere near as much dirt as a power washer will, even with the use of chemicals. By using a power washer as a pre-rinse, you are removing as much contaminants from the surface of the bike without touching it. This can then be followed up with a chemical soak and then a further rinse to remove even more contaminants without ever touching the bike. Now obviously, the concern with motorcycles is that they don't have anywhere near the amount of protection from the elements that cars do. Electrics are usually under the seat or under the tank, and the instrument cluster or displays on modern bikes are exposed to the elements. I'm sure we've all been caught out by the rain, and we know that when the rain is heavy and you don't have the right gear on, the water will find its way through everything, right down to your underwear. This same thing is going to be happening to our bikes, and I'm pretty sure manufacturers do not make bikes that are only suitable for dry conditions. That would be pretty nuts. The manufacturers will undergo vigorous testing when it comes to waterproofing the most essential elements of a motorcycle. But with that said, we still need to treat them with care because water and electrics do not play nice together. Before I continue with my power washing tips, if you're enjoying this video, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. And so on to my tips for safely using a power washer on your motorcycle. Use the right attachment. My Karcher came with two different cleaning heads. The first one is incredibly aggressive and is designed for cleaning the driveway or patio. Don't use this on your bike. It's far too powerful. Yes, it will remove the dirt, but there's a good chance it will also remove the paint. The second lance that came with my Karcher is designed for washing cars with. It has an adjustable power setting which is very handy for delicately washing sensitive parts or power washing the not so sensitive dirty parts. Personally, I don't find this lance has quite enough aggression to really clean where it counts. It is also a bit cumbersome to use as it's very long. I personally use a hand lance, which I find is slightly more powerful. It doesn't have an adjustable power, but it's incredibly easy to use and allows me to have much greater control over how I'm aiming it at the bike. It does come with some different tips which adjust the amount of spray angle that comes out of the nozzle. I tend to stick with a medium nozzle as this has the right balance of power and control. My second tip is all about distance. The further away from the bike the lance is, the less aggressive the impact will be. By getting up close with the extremely dirty and less sensitive areas of the bike, I'm able to clean aggressively. And for the more sensitive areas, I increase the distance, which reduces how hard the water is hitting the bike. The tank and the seat are the areas where you need to take the most amount of care. Don't spray from underneath the tank or seat. Always spray from above with a fair amount of distance. This reduces the risk of spraying water directly into the electrics and sensitive areas of the bike. tip number 4, when it comes to instrument clusters and the controls on the handlebars, you can skip these altogether with the power washer and do it by hand. Or if you do use the washer, keep a significant amount of distance from the power washer. You definitely don't want to be spraying high power water into the switches and buttons on the controls, and likewise the instruments or screen. For tip number 5, the last area of sensitivity is around any bearings, in particular the wheel hubs and the steering yoke. Power washing the wheels is absolutely fine, but keep the main blast away from the centre of the wheels and the steering components. Blasting these sensitive areas with water could potentially degrade or remove the grease inside them. Tip number 6, put a rag or an exhaust bung inside the exhaust to prevent water from running down the exhaust. If water is left inside the exhaust, this can lead to rust. By blocking off the exhaust, you reduce the likelihood of any water going inside. However, when I clean my bike, I always run the engine up to temperature afterwards until I see no steam coming off the radiator. The heat from the engine will dry out any moisture left behind and will certainly evaporate any water that finds its way into the exhaust. For tip number 7, the radiator can be quite sensitive. The small metal fins are quite delicate. However, I think in most cases they're a bit tougher than people give them credit for. They're usually placed in one of the most exposed areas of the bike, and the manufacturers wouldn't do this if they couldn't take a bit of a beating. That said, if you are power washing your radiator, then do so with some distance so you aren't blasting with the full force of the power washer. For tip number 8, keep the water moving. As you can see here, I'm continuously moving the power washer from side to side, and I very rarely hold it in the same place blasting for any length of time unless there's some seriously stubborn dirt in a not so sensitive area. So there you have it folks. I think it's fine to wash your bike with a power washer as long as it's dirty enough to need one in the first place and it's done safely. There's nothing to be afraid of, just be careful and follow these tips and you should be fine. If you've got any great power washing tips, please leave them in the comments below, and if you haven't seen my cleaning video then you can watch it here. With that said, thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.